Hey everybody, it's Dr. Asha. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Real Talk. I usually have a very tight recording schedule, and most of the time, by the time an episode is released, it's been several weeks, maybe even months that I recorded an episode, but this time, this one is in real time because I wanted to address some things that are happening right now in the world, and I just wanted to talk about, uncertain times and what that has taught me. I've been noticing something in the conversations with colleagues, friends, and there's this quiet tension in the air. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. It's not panic exactly, but it's kind of this collective uncertainty. People are watching the news a little bit more closely, checking their phones a little bit more often, thinking about the future in the ways that it feels right now, a bit unsettled, unsure. And in times like this, I often find myself reflecting on what uncertainty has taught me over the years. Because if there's one thing life guarantees, it's this: certainty is never permanent. This is what builds our resilience. We can develop something instead of something much more powerful than letting fear take over. The ability to remain steady inside of uncertainty is very powerful. Today, I want to share with you, as I reflect upon my own life, some things that have helped me find my footing when the ground feels like it's shifting too much. And I know that there's a lot of unrest right now, but we can find our footing to remain calm and to be able to move forward with confidence. I remember a period in my life when everything seemed to change all at once. Plans I had made with complete confidence suddenly unraveled, fell through. Opportunities that I thought were secure disappeared before my eyes. And the future that I had imagined at that time looked completely different, almost overnight. And at first, it felt quite destabilizing. I was really unsure. But after that initial shock, something interesting began to happen. All the things that seemed urgent before suddenly didn't matter to me as much. What mattered became more clear. I became hyper-focused on the things that really mattered, the people I loved, the values I held, the kind of person that I wanted to be when things were difficult. The uncertain times have a way of stripping away the unnecessary, and that brings us back to the essentials. Sometimes that clarity is the gift hidden inside of the disruption. And if we can try to focus on that, it will really help us. One of the hardest things about uncertainty is that our minds want answers immediately. We want to know what will happen next. We want guarantees. We want reassurances that everything will be okay. And life doesn't give us that. It rarely works that way. There have been moments in my life when I've tried to solve uncertainty by thinking harder and planning more or pushing for answers. And I tell you, the more I did that, the more anxious I felt. Because eventually I had to learn something very important out of doing that the mind seeks control, but your spirit learns trust. And trust doesn't mean that you're ignoring the reality of what is happening. It means believing that even when you can't see the full path, that you can take the next step. If you look back at your own life, chances are the most meaningful changes didn't happen when everything felt stable. They happen when something unexpected forced you to grow. I've had conversations with people who say things like, "Oh, I would never choose that difficult season again, but it did change me in ways that I'm grateful for." So just think about that for a minute. The uncertainty stretches us. It challenges our assumptions. It challenges our comfortable selves, our comfort zones. It pushes us to develop resilience, creativity, and compassion. The version of ourselves that emerges after certain uncertainty is often stronger, wiser, and much more grounded than we ever were. But we rarely see that while we're in the middle of it. Another thing that uncertain times reveals is how deeply we need one another. Community is super important. When life feels predictable, it's easy to focus on goals, timelines, and achievements. But when uncertainty arrives, relationships move to the front and center. I've seen this again and again. I've experienced it myself as well. People checking in with each other more. Community showing up in quiet ways. Friends offering support without being asked. In uncertain times, kindness becomes more visible. And sometimes that simple human connection is the thing that carries us forward and gives us the strength to overcome any fear of uncertainty that we may be happening, that could be happening or that we're having at that time. You know, perhaps the most important lesson that uncertainty has taught me over the years is that external stability is never guaranteed, but inner stability can be cultivated. And this is why I find it so very important for us to all be consciously working on our own mindset, our own inner world. Our inner stability comes from practices like this: faith, gratitude, perspective, reflection. It comes from remembering that we are more than our circumstances. When we develop that inner steadiness, uncertainty loses some of its power. Because even in the world, if the world is shifting around us, we will know how to return to ourselves, to find that inner strength, to find that inner resilience. Now, if you're listening right now and the world feels uncertain, you are not alone. Uncertainty is uncomfortable, but it's also deeply human. Every generation faces moments like this, and every generation finds ways to move forward. So if today feels heavy or unclear, take a breath, slow down. Focus on what truly matters. Trust the next step. Lean on the people around you. Find your tribe. And remember this: uncertain times don't just test us. They shape us into who we are becoming. And sometimes the strength we discover in those moments becomes the foundation for everything that comes next. You know, the uncertainty is uncomfortable because it reminds us that we don't control everything. And most of us have spent our lives believing that if we can just plan carefully enough, work hard enough, or think clearly enough, we can avoid the unknown. It just doesn't work that way. Every generation faces moments where the future looks unclear, and we are in that right now for our time. Moments where the ground shifts and we're asked to navigate something that we've never seen before, to act differently, to step up to the plate a lot differently. You know, we learn to lean on each other. We learn to return to what matters. We learn that courage doesn't mean certainty. It means continuing even when the certainty isn't available. It refines us. So just take a deep breath, focus on the next step right now instead of the entire path. Spend time with people who remind you what truly matters, and remember that uncertainty has always been a part of human history. It's our human story. It's also where some of our greatest growth begins. I want to leave you with a question to sit with now. Not something you need to answer immediately, but something worth reflecting upon. When you look back on this period of uncertainty one day, what kind of person do you hope it helped you become? That question alone can sometimes guide the choices we make next. And maybe, just maybe, the way we move through uncertain times today will shape a stronger, wiser version of ourselves tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining me today. Be sure to subscribe and follow, and I look forward to connecting with you next time.